Tonight, Lydia's royal attack. The Senator gives the King and Queen a dressing down after undressing on the street. Hefner steals the show, the alpaca giving His Majesty a surprise spray. A fire emergency at Villawood, the recycling factory, up in flames. A P-plater sends his car hurtling down a southwest Sydney street on his way home from a party. Payday for sacked Qantas workers after landing a huge compensation victory. And the Kangaroos have revenge on their minds as they head to New Zealand for the Pacific Championships.
This is 9 News with Peter Overton.
Good evening. King Charles and Queen Camilla were welcomed to Canberra today, but their visit to the nation's capital wasn't completely welcoming. Inside Parliament's Great Hall, Indigenous Senator Lydia Thorpe launched a tirade about genocide and land rights at their Majesties before she was forcibly removed.
A message for King on country.
Give us our land back. Give us what you stole from us. You destroyed our land. Give us the treaties.
Victoria Senator Lydia Thorpe in a traditional cloak with a very non-traditional welcome.
You are a genocide. This is not your land. This is not your land. You are not my king.
For 45 seconds, she berated the King and Crown, accusing the monarchy of genocide, all while being ushered out of Parliament's Great Hall.
The colony. The colony.
Senator Thorpe had turned her back on the anthem and started the day with a run-in with police, leaving her without a shirt. A far from silent minority outside the War Memorial, the first stop for the King and Queen. Inside, they were greeted by a lone bugler and a wall lined with the lost and with poppies. The King and Queen adding 2 more. The Sovereign solemn, this well-known visitor bowing before our unknown soldier. Back outside, reward for those that had waited so long.
Oh, it was amazing.
Absolutely incredible.
It
we
was
didn't
incredible.
Expect it. I didn't get to shake the King's hand, but I got to shake Queen Camilla's hand. It was so good.
It's a wonderful experience just to see the crowd and so many happy people.
From the people to the pageantry. 21-gun salute, dozens of military members, hundreds waiting inside. Miners, medalists, monarchists and MPs.
People have had haircuts, people have shined shoes, suits have been pressed, and that's just the Republicans.
Like the Prime Minister.
And on behalf of all Australians, we wish you an absolutely splendid stay.
Throughout my life, Australia's First Nations peoples have done me the great honour of sharing so generously their stories and cultures.
Including today. Senator Thorpe removed and a chuckle from Prime Minister and King.
Next month marks 25 years since Australia had the chance to walk away from the monarchy, but we didn't. Now a next vote seems generations away as the anthem proclaims this king longed to reign over us.
It means Australian kids won't get the chance to be head of state.
I love your glasses.
But they can at least look the part.
If he comes and says hello, what do you think you'll say to him?
Where's your crown?
Where's your crown?
Yeah.
He's left it at home, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Do you think you could maybe borrow yours?
Maybe.
Charles Croucher, 9 News.
The King also received a spray of the humorous kind today as he met with crowds outside the Australian War Memorial. Among them, Hefner, the sneezing alpaca.
A convoy fit for a king and queen. Camilla in the front seat, 13 vehicles in all. The royal motorcade speeding into Yarralumba. And there the King telling opposition leader Peter Dutton the Governor-General's residence reminded him of his late grandmother's home in England. The King then recounting his earlier face-to-face at the War Memorial with Hefner, the alpaca, who came dressed for the occasion.
It sneezed on me.
Just got the shot.
When I was in Nepal years ago, an elephant sneezed on me. That's not a good idea.
In another room, the Queen was meeting with senior figures leading Australia's battle with domestic violence, including former Australian of the Year, Rosie Batty.
All Australian governments have now signed up to a national plan with a very ambitious target to end violence against women.
Outside, the royals reunited, the Queen planting a tree to mark their visit, the King parting with advice for some school kids.
And good luck with all your dreaded exams and things. You can always blame us if you fail.
At the CSIRO's Bushfire Research Lab, the King was shown a pyrotron, a wind tunnel that simulates a bushfire, helping researchers understand the impact on our bushland. This is an opportunity for the King to show his long interest in conservation and the climate while raising awareness for a cause close to his heart. Outside, an ACT fire crew climbed into their truck to demonstrate the burnover protection system, the King nearly disappearing in the shower that covered the truck.
Your Majesty, what did you think of that?
It's very encouraging, isn't it, to see what can be done.
The Queen had diverted to the Botanic Gardens to meet organisers of the charity Give It, of which she is a patron, an organisation that supports those impacted by disasters.
Well, I congratulate you all on everything you do. You're doing a brilliant job.
In Canberra, Kate Creedon, 9 News.
And Kate joins me from Canberra. Kate, it's been a huge day for their Majesties.
It was jam-packed, Pete. The King and Queen covered so much ground here in Canberra. They spent this afternoon at the Botanic Gardens, which has the largest collection of Australian plants in the world, learning a little bit more about our native flora and also the impact of climate change. To commemorate their visit, they also planted a tree, assisted by 92-year-old volunteer Doreen Wilson. Now, just a few minutes ago, we have seen them board a plane. They'll shortly be heading back to Sydney for some much-needed rest ahead of another huge day tomorrow, Pete.
Terrific, Kate. We'll leave you in Canberra and head to the Sydney Opera House where we find Ruth Wynne-Williams. Ruth, tomorrow will be Sydney's last chance to see the King and Queen.
Pete, the big final act will play out right here at the Opera House tomorrow. We've seen the Air Force rehearse a spectacular flyover here this afternoon, and in the last hour we've seen members of the Army. They've been practising their movements here too. The King and Queen, they'll be holding a meet and greet right here on the forecourt at 4:25 p.m. Advice for the public, though, is to come at least an hour and a half early. Pete, they're expecting it to be packed.
Ruth, thank you. Of course, we'll have special extended coverage of the King and Queen's events in Sydney tomorrow from 10:45 a.m. on Today Extra and on 9 News and 9 Now. A challenging afternoon for firefighters in Sydney's west, working to contain a huge blaze at a recycling plant in Villawood. 9's Annalise Bolt is there for us this evening. Annalise, what's the situation as we come to you?
Pete, crews are right now battling a large fire which has taken hold in piles upon piles of flammable materials, including shredded mattresses. It broke out at 12:30 this afternoon here on Miller Road. Firefighters confronted with a wall of flames.
Extremely difficult fire to extinguish. We've got a very high fuel load. The fuel load is burning readily, burning freely, and was threatening adjoining buildings and warehouses.
They did manage to stop it spreading to surrounding properties, but the trouble is the fire is burning so deep in that pile of rubbish, they've had to bring in an excavator to try to get to the source. So as it stands tonight, it is now contained, but it could be burning for hours, potentially even through the night. Pete?
All right, Annalise, thank you. 3 former Qantas workers who were sacked during the pandemic have had a big win in the federal court. A judge ruling they're entitled to compensation, and the decision will pave the way for payments to almost 2,000 other ex-employees.
The party started and they hadn't even left the building.
Woo! What a win! This is finally the day for justice for 1,700 workers who did nothing wrong.
The federal court today ruling on a compensation payout for the sacked workers based on 3 case studies.
What a victory against almost like our mother and father was the family working for Qantas. It was family.
I loved working at Qantas. I expected to be there till I retired, and when this happened, it was an absolute shock.
The Flying Kangaroo ordered to pay a total of $170,000 in compensation to the 3 former workers. But this win is a test flight of sorts for 1,700 dismissed staff waiting in the wings.
This was a decision about 3 test cases. It now has to be applied to every other illegally sacked worker to determine the global figure that Qantas has to pay.
This is probably worth in excess of $100 million, this global compensation figure.
And it could get even worse for Qantas. That figure will likely soar past $100 million if the company is hit with penalties as well. In a statement, Qantas said it apologises to former ground handling employees. The federal court found that while there were valid and lawful commercial reasons for the outsourcing, it could not rule out that Qantas also had an unlawful reason. Today's decision ending the 4-year David and Goliath battle, another blow to an already hurting kangaroo. Alex Nike, 9 News.
A P-plater has cheated death after rolling his car several times while driving home from a birthday party in Sydney's southwest. Parents from a nearby school say the accident could have ended very differently during daylight hours.
Sliding out of control, sent into a roll and somehow landing the right way up again. The impact heard from inside this family home.
I woke up to a massive bang. I thought someone actually hit into the house.
A mangled mess, the Mazda hatchback's collision course in Macquarie Fields, spanning 100 metres down Atchison Road. The car a write-off, its 32-year-old driver considered lucky.
It was horrifying. I saw a young man, he was sort of slumped over the steering wheel. Wasn't sure whether he was alive or not. Had he not had a seatbelt on, it would have been a very different story for him. I don't think he would have been in the car at all. So the seatbelt definitely saved his life.
He was freed by firefighters first on scene before being taken to Liverpool Hospital in a stable condition.
The school fence clearly slowed the rate at which the car was barrelling down the road, saving it from careering into this home. Inside, a 3-year-old girl and her parents.
Everyone crosses there to enter the school, so thank God it didn't happen during school hours because this is very busy here.
In Macquarie Fields, Madison Scott, 9 News.
Donald Trump has pulled off a major campaign stunt, donning a McDonald's apron in a crucial state. He made fries and served supporters as Kamala Harris was serenaded with a special performance for her birthday.
Drive-through Donald.
I like this shop. I think I might come back and do it again.
A highly orchestrated campaign stunt at McDonald's, complete with his own supporters.
And you know this is compliments of Trump, okay?
Yes, thank you. Mr. President,
yes.
Please don't let the United States become Brazil, my native Brazil.
We'll keep it good.
The Republican candidate dining out on the attention and loving it.
So nice. Thank you very much. Yeah, I took a bullet, that's right.
As he tries to win over support in Pennsylvania, the state that could decide the election race.
I love salt. Wait a minute, I spilled some. I'm very superstitious.
Making this stop after repeatedly attacking Kamala Harris's past work at the fast food chain.
Look at the crowd over there. Look how happy everybody is. They're happy because they want hope.
Delivering her message of hope in church, the Vice President on her 60th birthday.
It is not enough to preach the values of compassion and respect. We must live them.
Given a gift of song by Stevie Wonder. And from her opponent.
I want to wish her a happy 60th birthday, right?
As Kamala Harris sent a warning far beyond the largely black American congregations in Georgia.
Our country is at a crossroads, and where we go from here is up to us.
With this election so tight, church leaders are calling on black American men to give her a surge in support.
Whenever you need something, the Bible says there arose a mother. But I'd say there arose a woman of God.
In 15 days, Americans will decide if she rises to the highest office in the land. In the United States, Jonathan Kersley, 9 News.
Police have made a significant appeal over the historic murder of 3 Indigenous children in Bowraville in the state's north more than 30 years ago. Between 1990 and 1991, the children, the youngest just 4, disappeared from the small country town. 2 of their bodies were later found, except for 16-year-old Colleen Craig Walker.
It's important for us to be here to let the family know and the community know that we haven't forgotten.
Detectives have set up a post in Bowraville and will spend a week there to encourage people to come forward. Israeli forces have unleashed a nighttime bombardment on Beirut's southern suburbs shortly after issuing a warning for residents to evacuate. The IDF claiming to be targeting Hezbollah's financial institutions.
Enormous blasts in Lebanon's capital. Israeli airstrikes raining down on parts of Beirut. The nighttime blitz coming with a warning for residents to evacuate. We'll be targeting a large number of sites in the coming hours, an IDF spokesman says. The targets here, according to Israeli forces, Hezbollah's finance network. Israel promising to reveal how Hezbollah uses civil institutions as a cover. The operation followed the convening of Israel's Security Council by Benjamin Netanyahu and comes a day after his home was targeted by a drone. Footage released too of Hezbollah targets being struck in southern Lebanon and vast tunnel networks near the Israeli border being blown apart. Despite the onslaught, Hezbollah still troubles Israel's defences. Around 170 rockets fired, some starting fires in the north. In central Gaza, chaos and grief after another deadly blast. Wounded are carried from a truck and rushed into Al-Aqsa Hospital. The Israeli strike on a car in Deir al-Balah, killing at least 6. The number of dead from the strike in northern Gaza the previous night rising to at least 87, according to health officials. A figure Israeli forces don't agree with. What is known is heavy fire inside the strip continues, despite the elimination of Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar. In London, Edward Godfrey, 9 News.
Police want your help to track down this man after several beach shelters in Sydney's eastern suburbs were vandalised. Buildings in Bronte, Tamarama and Bondi were graffitied with the word Hamas around 11 o'clock last night. Council rangers today covered the graffiti with tape and will paint over it. Sydney's tired entertainment quarter at Moore Park could be turned into a bustling late-night hub under new state government plans. Tenders are now open with the aim to completely overhaul the site.
As an entertainment quarter, this is anything but.
It has its moments and, you know, we have our markets and things like that during the week and they're always popular, but, yeah, that's 2 days a week.
Now the state government wants the 11-hectare site transformed, including a new indoor space for live performances, sporting matches and events, with a capacity for 20,000 people.
This could be a fantastic asset for Sydney. We desperately need a new indoor arena. There's literally hundreds of acts around the world that want to come and tour Australia and Sydney in particular.
The range of restaurants and bars would also be expanded.
I think that's really exciting. I think it will bring more people to the area.
It's not used to the maximum capacity now. I'm all for it.
That is a site that is significantly underutilised and we want to see it reach its full potential.
In a statement, Lord Mayor Clover Moore welcomed the plan, saying she'd also like to see a theatre added, but she said traffic congestion, illegal parking and noise needed to be addressed. The current leaseholders of this site had their own plans to redevelop it with a new indoor entertainment centre, more bars and restaurants, but it was knocked back after concerns from angry local residents and Sydney Council. That was a $1 billion proposal put forward by Carsinga Investments, businessmen Jerry Harvey and John Singleton among its directors. They'll tender again, promising to work closely with residents and comply with state planning laws.
We want to turn this into a world-class entertainment centre for the benefit of Sydney-siders, New South Wales people, you know, all over the country.
Once a tender is approved, work could begin within a couple of years. At Moore Park, Eddie Meyer, 9 News.
It is time now for our first check of the day's weather. Good evening, Amber.
Good evening to you, Pete. After a few early isolated showers, it was a mostly cloudy morning, followed by increasing sunshine this afternoon. The coast was windy, southerlies reaching up to 65 kilometres an hour in the harbour, and that added a significant wind chill. The city fell to 16 degrees overnight before a top of 22 this afternoon, but it felt closer to 15 degrees for most of the day due to those winds. The west also falling to 16 this morning, slowly reaching a top of 24 degrees this afternoon. Tomorrow will be warmer and sunnier. I'll be back with the full forecast a little later, Pete.
Amber, thank you. Next in the news, William Tyrrell's foster mother unleashes on police. Why she says detectives have done nothing to find the little boy in recent years. We speak to the friend of the Harbour Bridge crash victim, killed on his way to work. What he wants us all to know coming up. Calls for stamp duty to be scrapped to ease our housing crisis. And Italy's flood emergency, hundreds rescued as filthy water fills streets and homes. The foster mother of missing boy William Tyrrell claims police have done nothing to figure out what happened to him for years. Detectives have named the woman, who cannot be identified, as a person of interest and allege she disposed of the then 3-year-old's body. She has released a statement to news.com.au saying she loved William fiercely and claimed police were persecuting her. The best friend of a truck driver killed on the Harbour Bridge is tonight calling for an inquest into the death. Jamal Shukri was one of 2 men who died last week in a head-on crash when a car drifted into oncoming traffic.
Sufyan Agelmus and his best friend Jamal Shukri in happier times.
Everyone that knew him loved him. He always checks on people.
Last Thursday, 44-year-old Jamal was killed in the horror crash on the Harbour Bridge. He was driving this white Hyundai to work when he was hit head-on by a car that veered into his lane. Later that night, Sufyan received that dreaded phone call.
After you'd received that phone call and you'd heard that news, what was going through your mind?
Oh, it's a mistake. It's not him. It's not him. It doesn't. I heard about that accident. It happened early in the afternoon. Jamal started late. It must be a mistake.
Jamal usually worked night shift and rarely crossed the bridge.
Out of all people, for that to happen to him, it's unbelievable.
He'd moved to Australia from Morocco in 1998 and it officially became home in 2005 when he was awarded citizenship. He'd been working as a truck driver ever since.
He's passionate about truck, but he's the most careful driver you'll ever meet.
But with few family here, Sufyan was called on to identify his friend to the authorities.
Also had the difficult task of having to go to the coroners and to see him.
It was very tough. It was kind of a surreal kind of experience.
What sent the other car on its fatal course is still unclear, but Sufyan wants to make sure it never happens again.
It's almost like a Russian roulette bridge, you know, really is. I think the New South Wales Authority, in my view, are directly responsible for this kind of accident.
The government says it's continuing to assess how it can deliver safety improvements. Sufyan has requested a coroner's inquiry. Massilia Eiley, 9 News.
A boy has been killed in floods sweeping parts of Italy, with Bologna and surrounding areas in the country's north hit with torrential rain. Firefighters have carried out more than 300 rescue operations and dozens of people have been evacuated. Crowds get more than they bargained for at Blacktown's Diwali festival. This dramatic collapse proof wind and fire are not a good mix. Young women under attack, threatened at gunpoint. See the terrifying robbery unfold. How nose cells are being used to treat chronic spinal cord injuries and help people walk again.
And in the Southern Hemisphere's biggest necropolis, Australia's largest mausoleum returns to life.
9 News, brought to you by Hyundai. Have you tried it? Now you can.
A terrifying experience for two women in Victoria. Their shop held up by two armed men. Security vision shows one of the men demanding a worker at gunpoint fill a duffel bag with cash. The other man, holding a large knife, is seen stealing boxes of cigarettes. They're both still on the run. And amidst Diwali celebrations at Blacktown Showground, this effigy blowing over in high winds as fireworks shot into the night sky on Sunday. There was a fire safety team at the event. Nobody was injured. Australians may have to wait longer for the Reserve Bank to cut interest rates, according to ANZ's CEO. And those concerns are seeing record high numbers enrol into financial literacy programs to learn skills that could help.
Financial stress is at decade highs, and while most economists expect interest rate cuts will bring relief by February, the CEO of ANZ is worried that won't happen.
That's what I worry about, that people are taking it for granted that cuts are going to be early, and I worry that they may be a little bit further away.
A reality check most won't want to hear in the lead up to Christmas.
I worry that inflation's a little bit more set in than we may like.
The Reserve Bank will weigh that up at its next meeting on November 5, but Australians are already taking matters into their own hands. The country's biggest financial literacy program, Saver Plus, has this year seen a 42% spike in participation. Mum of four, Cara Rogers, telling others today who are financially stressed to jump in.
I swear by it, I tell my family about it, I tell all my friends about it.
The program runs online for 10 hours across 10 months, covering budgeting, managing debts and financial planning. It's open to students over the age of 18 or those with a child in school, and they must receive some government payment. Any savings made during the program will be matched by ANZ up to $500. Young people in particular are piling into the course. Sign-ups for 18 to 25-year-olds, in fact, are 4 times higher now than they were this time last year.
One of the reasons why we're seeing a growth in demand is because often people are leaving school without this capability, this confidence.
And in the absence of relief, that demand is expected to keep rising.
Programs like this are really well timed to be effective when times are tough.
Chris Kohler, 9 News.
Stamp duty is a horrible tax that stops Australians getting into a home. That's according to the Business Council of Australia, which today released a landmark report into fixing the housing supply crisis. The council has made 29 recommendations, including setting up a fund to incentivise states to phase out stamp duty.
We think it's important to have a fund like the National Reform Fund, which helps states cover those, at least initially, particularly difficult years as you undertake this type of transition.
The report also calls for consistent zoning rules, faster approval processes and training more skilled workers to build homes. Australian scientists could be on the verge of curing paralysis as plans are announced for world-first human clinical trials in Queensland. It's hoped a treatment using nerve cells taken from the nose could be a game changer for repairing debilitating spinal cord injuries.
This time 2 years ago, Joe Ponyu was a rugby league prodigy, on the verge of a promising career until a catastrophic on-field injury changed everything.
I was playing a trial match against the Brisbane Broncos and I collided with a goalpost trying to make a tackle.
Joe left a C3 quadriplegic, one of 20,000 Australians living with spinal cord injury, given hope today by the announcement of world-first human clinical trials getting underway in the new year. Griffith University scientists aiming to repair damage to the spinal cord and regain function and feeling.
We're aiming low, hoping for high. If a person can move a finger again, that means they can pick up a fork and feed themselves.
Their treatment using highly regenerative sense of smell cells harvested from the patient's own nose and prepared into what's called a nerve bridge.
The specialised nerve bridge takes just 24 hours to form into what you see here. It's then transplanted into the injury site within the spinal cord in a delicate operation.
Repairing the spinal cord is now a real possibility. A little bit of sensation, all those things are huge.
Regained function won't come overnight though, requiring intensive long-term rehabilitation on top of the transplant. Claire Todd-Hunter, 9 News.
There's an old Italian expression about death. Once the game is over, both the king and the pawn go back in the same box. But for one Sydney colonial figure, his box would be the biggest this country has seen. and it's now been given a new lease of life.
Its 10 metres of Pyrmont sandstone dominates the Southern Hemisphere's biggest necropolis. In this city of the dead, the Fraser Mausoleum stands tall.
It was designed from the very beginning to be grand and viewed from every angle.
Built by Irish-born merchant John Fraser, the mausoleum would house the family Fraser in death as they had lived in life.
Wanting to, I guess, set a mark or set a scene on what he had become and show that wealth.
However, by the 1960s, it became the repository for the droppings of pigeons. The family moved from their alabaster sarcophagi, limbed by lion's feet of bronze, never seen in Australia.
So you just kind of go to bones because it dries out and it happens naturally inside the box.
But after years of restoration, the mausoleum has been returned to its glorious confusion of beautifully crafted stylings. From its solid stone dome...
It hasn't moved, it hasn't sunk or twisted, it's still perfect to this day.
Down to its boundary of cast iron fence.
It's got lots of decorative flowers that are actually movable. Some of them are seized, but some of the flowers still turn.
The mausoleum officially reopening tomorrow, and now to be part of the regular tours through Rookwood.
When we were up on top of the scaffolding and you can see the whole cemetery from above, it's a very good thing to see and it was a good spot to have lunch.
At Rookwood, Mike Dalton, 9 News.
Sydney's drinking water standards in the spotlight. New guidelines to limit cancer-linked forever chemicals in our supplies. We'll have the details after sport. Unwanted phone calls and emails. The data scientist who uncovered how her personal information had been traded for profit. It's like something out of a James Bond flick. The beach stunt that had us holding our breath. James, the Kangaroos are out for revenge in New Zealand.
Good evening to you, Pete. Yes, the memories of last year's Pacific Championships humiliation remain very strong. Tonight, we hear why their win over Tonga has the Kangaroos primed to take down the Kiwis. Audition day for a place in the Australian cricket team, why it doesn't go so well for a number of Test hopefuls. Last, we hear from Leighton Hewitt and how he believes Nick Kyrgios can make it back as a Grand Slam force.
And we can look forward to a warmer and sunnier day tomorrow, but the blue skies won't last. I'll have your full forecast soon.
The Kangaroos say they're ready for anything the Kiwis throw at them when the Trans-Tasman rivalry is renewed in Christchurch this Sunday. They also have revenge on their minds after they were embarrassed by New Zealand in last year's final.
If there's one thing Lindsay Collins can be happy about, he's not facing Nelson Asofa Solomona this week. He was wiped out of a final while Nelson missed the grand final, and we haven't heard from Lindsay about the shot.
I've got no comment on it. Yeah, it happened like 3-4 weeks ago, so yeah.
Collins was floored by this tackle last week. He got folded by Hamoli Olakawatu. He was happy to discuss the legal hit.
It winded me. A physio come out and he told me I had to get up, otherwise they were going to take me off. And some explicits and told him, how about you get hit by Hamoli and see how you go. So, but yeah, no, it was good. Yeah, that's footy. That's my job. So I'm going to get smashed. It's inevitable.
And it will be more of the same this week. The Kiwis always have a pack of heavy hitters. The Tongan assault has a ruse ready.
We got a lot of confidence out of that game, for us, and especially, holding them to nil. Like, they're a big, powerful side.
What's really going to fire the Australians up? The memories of one of the lowest moments in Kangaroo history, the 30-0 thumping by New Zealand last year.
It's in the past, so we're trying to move. We are moving forward, and can't probably dwell on the past too much, as cliche as it is. So we've got a new team here, and it wasn't nice to be a part of. Every time you put on those colours, you want to do that jersey proud, and for me myself, didn't do the jersey proud last year, so we get an opportunity sort of to rectify that.
Danny Weidler, 9 News.
Australian cricket selectors are trying to decide on an opening batsman to face India in the most anticipated summer in years. Today, though, none of those contenders took their chance. Even the big-name batsmen struggled as pressure ramps up in the race for a baggy green.
Best of the best back in state colours, but any thought they'd dominate the domestic stage?
Down leg side, is there a tick? Oh, there is!
blown away.
It was good. I actually felt pretty good out there, to be honest, for the 3 that I scored, strangely enough.
Steve Smith dismissed for 3 at the MCG. Marnus Labuschagne out for 22 in Brisbane.
Marnus throws his head in the air, can't believe it.
And his Queensland teammate Usman Khawaja out for a duck.
Giving it out, Khawaja's on his way.
Their spots in the Australian side are already assured. Today was a test audition for someone to join them at the top of the order. After Twin Tons, teenager Sam Qantas was in the spotlight.
And first ball goes right through.
Battling Scott Boland at the MCG.
Oh, that one's very close, and it is out.
Qantas was trapped in front for 2 runs.
I got a bit unlucky there, I reckon. You know, he's a bright prospect. Got to remember he's only 19 as well, so you know he's got plenty of time. But yeah, what I've seen so far, it looks promising.
The other contenders couldn't capitalise. Cameron Bancroft caught on 8. Matthew Renshaw removed for 2. While Marcus Harris made 16.
We get something on that, and he's out!
All the speculation around our openers sparked by Smith's apparent desire to drop down the order. Today, he said he never made that request.
I said, I'm happy to bat wherever you like me to bat, but yeah, 4 would be my ideal position.
Sam Jordan, 9 News.
For the first time, New Zealand are women's T20 Cricket World Champions, beating South Africa by 32 runs in the final in Dubai. Amelia Kerr's 43, helping the White Ferns to 5 for 158, and the Proteas crumbled under the pressure as they tried to chase the biggest ever total in a decider. More heroics from Kerr, sealing the deal, taking 3 for 24. Plenty have been sceptical about Nick Kyrgios's plans to play in the Australian Open, but Leighton Hewitt believes the Aussie still has what it takes to compete at Grand Slam level.
It's not easy. Nick has a lot of firepower and weapons though, and if he's serving well, he's going to cause anyone havoc out there. If you can keep holding serve and get to a tie break, you're in with a chance.
Hewitt is also confident Alex de Minaur will be fit for the United Cup in December, where Team Australia will face Great Britain in the pool stage here in Sydney. And Ferrari has gone 1-2 in Austin, Texas. Charles Leclerc comfortably winning the US Grand Prix after taking the lead on the very first corner. His teammate Carlos Sainz close behind. An overtaking error from McLaren's Lando Norris, handing world champion Max Verstappen 3rd place and some crucial points in the championship race. Pete, that's it for now. See you tomorrow.
Indeed, James, thank you. Next, we have breaking news. A mother involved in a head-on crash with NRL star Ezra Mam speaks to 9 News. Plus, new drinking water guidelines to limit cancer-linked chemicals in our supplies. How your private details are being traded for profit. And the simple change in Sydney schools that's lifted student performance. We have breaking news for you. A rideshare passenger who was involved in a car accident with Brisbane Broncos star Ezra Mam last Friday has broken her silence. The mother and her 4-year-old daughter were travelling in an Uber when the car collided head-on with Mam's vehicle.
She has a fractured hip and same with the seatbelt. On her stomach, she has really bad burns from the friction of the seatbelt.
Mam allegedly failed a roadside drug test and was unlicensed. Standards for tap water in Australia could be about to change. New guidelines to limit cancer-linked forever chemicals today released by the National Health and Medical Research Council. Under the changes, 3 chemicals in our drinking water would be significantly lowered. The overhaul comes after carcinogens were detected in Sydney's water catchments earlier this year. Let's go to finance now, and the price of gold has shot to a record high as the war in the Middle East causes a spike in investor anxiety. Here's our finance editor, Chris Kohler.
In times of uncertainty, people tend to invest in gold, and they must be really uncertain because the price of gold is at record highs, up 32% so far this year. The price has jumped above $2,700 an ounce for the first time as the war in the Middle East intensifies and the US presidential election gets closer. Bitcoin enthusiasts are also piling in. The cryptocurrency is trading at its highest level since June. And if you think all of that would mean investors would back off the share markets, you'd be wrong. It's also within reach of record highs. So money is flying in almost all directions on the markets. And of course, no surprise to see gold miners shooting higher today. Finally, the Australian dollar was mixed, buying 67 US cents today, just under 62 euro cents and 51 British pence.
Thank you, Chris. There's been a significant difference in the classroom and the playground since a mobile phone ban was introduced in public schools across the state 1 year ago. Survey data from 1,000 principals shows 81% agree student learning has improved. They say students are less distracted and are socialising better at recess and lunchtime. When a data scientist started getting a lot of unwelcome phone calls, she decided to find out why and how. Her investigation took her deep into the little-known world of data brokers, where personal data is legally sold for profit and our current privacy laws do little to stop them.
Priya Dev has always gone to great lengths to protect her personal information from landing in the wrong hands.
They're dark companies that go unnoticed.
But not even a data science academic could hide from the hidden network of data broking.
It's a dirty word, it's a dirty business. It's worth tens of billions of dollars all around the world.
Despite being on the National Do Not Call register, Priya started receiving dozens of unwanted calls from telemarketers and scammers and dug deeper.
Tell us about this web. This is only a small view of the bigger web that exists. So it's even bigger than this. It's a lot bigger than this, and it's global.
Uncovering a sophisticated network of data broker companies buying and selling her information over 10 years without her knowledge. Some of the companies have legitimate clients, including banks, energy and car companies, and even the Australian Labor Party.
It's passed through 50 hands or 100 hands, and that is the art of deception.
It begs the question, do Australians really have any control over their personal information? Trading data for cash is a legal practice, but the problem is when it ends up in the wrong hands.
Once you hand it over to someone, you don't know what they do with it. They might sell it.
The federal government is working on upgrading our lagging 1988 privacy laws. In the first stage, proposing civil penalties for serious invasions of privacy. Those changes are currently before Parliament. Now working on a second stage, which will consider introducing clear mandatory consent so Australians can opt in or out of having their information shared.
I think that we need to bring our privacy legislation into the digital age. At the moment, we clearly don't have enough regulation, we don't have enough control.
Giving Australians power over their privacy. Claudia Radoljak, 9 News.
Supercar drivers went a little off track this afternoon, using the backdrop of the sea and the sand to rev their engines. 3 vehicles going head-to-head with helicopters on Main Beach in the lead-up to the Gold Coast 500. The racing kicks off for real on Friday. Coming up in our news, Amber with the weather.
Thanks, Pete. Tonight will be fine, but very windy along the coast, dipping to between 9 and 13 degrees. Right now, it only feels like 14 in the city, 18 in our west. I'll have your full forecast in just a moment. It was a mostly cloudy start to the day before the sunshine appeared this afternoon. Brisk southerly winds reaching up to 65 kilometres an hour along the coast, adding a wind chill. It reached a top of 20 degrees in Terry Hills and Cronulla, 22 in the city, Blacktown, Liverpool, while our warmer suburbs were Richmond and Penrith, reaching a top of 24. It was mostly dry across the state, cool and windy along the coast, but warm and sunny further inland. We saw a top of 27 in Narrabri, Grafton, Dubbo, Wagga Wagga and in Albury, a cooler 19 degrees in Newcastle and Batemans Bay. Tomorrow, a low in the Tasman will send gusty southerlies over the New South Wales coast once again and showers over eastern Queensland, while fronts passing to the south will bring some showers to parts of WA, South Australia and Tasmania. Brisbane heading for a partly cloudy day tomorrow, 28 degrees, staying fine in Canberra. A warm one on the way for Melbourne, a top of 30, partly cloudy and 24 in Adelaide, 21 in Perth. Across New South Wales tomorrow, temperatures ranging from 21 in Wollongong to 27 in Grafton. Grafton. There is a strong wind warning and a hazardous surf warning for the Macquarie, Coffs and Byron coasts, and it will be warm across inland areas, reaching the 30s in the far west, 29 for Narrabri, Wagga Wagga and for Albury. Sydney will be mostly sunny tomorrow with light to moderate southeasterly winds. It will be a little warmer than today, heading for 21 degrees in Cronulla, 23 degrees in the city, 25 in Liverpool and Campbelltown, a warmer 27 on the way for Richmond and for Penrith. Let's take a look ahead. The city will be warm and partly cloudy on Wednesday, 28 degrees, and then a cool change will move through on Thursday, bringing up to 9 millimetres of rain with a top of 23. A shower or two on Friday, 21, cool and cloudy on Saturday with possible showers on Sunday. Those nights range from 13 to 17 degrees. In our west, Wednesday will be hot. Take a look at that temperature, 32 degrees. Much cooler on Thursday with a few showers. A possible shower on Friday, 22 degrees. Cloudy and 23 on Saturday, and then tonight will be the coldest night for the next week with lows range from 9 to 15 degrees. But tomorrow is looking like one of the sunniest of the whole week, Pete.
Thank you, Amber. Ali is next with the current affair. That is 9 News for this Monday. I'm Peter Overton. I hope you have a good evening. From all of us, good night.